let's talk about luxury. I mean, that's really what we're here for is
Mm,
actually mastering luxury and giving people some tips and ideas of how to get into luxury. Some people really feel like it is beyond their reach or that they're not luxury, that they are going to have a challenge getting into luxury. And that's part of what we do here on this podcast is to kind of break those barriers down and say, well, how can you get into luxury? Welcome, everyone, to Mastering Luxury with Sandra. Thanks for being here today. Super excited to talk to our guest, Jac Smith, today. Jac, most of you know him, but a few of you don't. He's out of St. Pete, and he is just a superstar rock star agent. I always like to just touch on why I chose the people that I chose. And for Jac, it's truly about his heart. He has got the biggest heart and he's so kind and always willing to help anybody. I remember when I first met Jac, like he didn't know me from a hole in the wall, and yet he was just so welcoming and caring. So I just love having people that exude luxury and also just have that great heart. So thanks, Jac, for being here.
well, thank you. I'm excited. I'm very excited. And what a lovely intro. I didn't know I was all that. Thank you.
You are all that and more.
Well, thank you. Thank you. You're very kind.
So, Jac, let's just start. We've got people on here that are probably brand new. We've got experienced agents, new agents, kind of a whole mix of people here, different brokerages, you name it, we got it. So, let's just start with a little bit of your history. Like, how did you get into real estate? I don't think this was your first career. So, you had a career before this. So,
Uh,
talk to us a little bit about your journey that got you here.
well, thank you, Sandra. That what a nice, lovely intro. I guess I'm going to do that career thing fast. I was with AT&T for 20 years, and then I got out of that, and I was a lineman. I was one of the very first fiber optics people. And yes, I went down in manholes and I climbed trees. Not everybody knows that. I mean, climb poles. You know, if you rang 611, I went to the door to fix the phone in the storms. I was that guy. Had a lovely, lovely life there. And then I went into mortgage banking. A buddy of mine that I had gotten sober with like 10 or 15 years before had gone into mortgage banking. And Philip and I had helped him with purchasing a home. And he paid us back very early. And I thought, how did you do this? And he said, well, I went into mortgage banking and I had some several 5-figure months. I said, you barely made 5 figures a year. How'd you get 5-figure months? So I thought, you know what? If he can do it, I can do it. So I did that. And then I retired from banking in 2007 before the dip, I guess is the better word to use. And I bought a restaurant and a bed and breakfast at the Jersey Shore. And in 2012, Sandy decided I didn't need that anymore, came in and wiped out the town I lived in.
Oh,
Listen, you know, when these things happen, you get very clear that God has a different plan, right?
yeah.
So a buddy of mine that I got sober with, we had a home in Fort Lauderdale, and I said, I don't know what to do now, where I want to live. I don't want to live here. And I said, there's too many cars. And he said, Jac, why don't you go to St. Pete? And I said, St. Pete, that's just old white people. And he said, Jac, did you ever look in the mirror? So here I am. And so I came in and settled down, bought a little condo. And then, of course, Philip said, well, now what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. He said, why don't you sell real estate? I said, no, those people are crazy. I had to do the mortgages for them. I don't want to deal with them. Nope, 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 nope. He said, Jac, everywhere we go, you look at real estate first. So I thought, well, let's give it a shot. So I signed up. I had a great mentor, a great team leader at the time, and the rest is history. And I've gone to my night that those that have you been through Ignite, and the night that I graduated Ignite, it was the company convention in New Orleans. So that's 10 years ago. And there were no planes to get there because everybody had taken them to go over. And so I got in my car and I drove. I left Ignite, got in my car and drove over. And I walked in, saw God Family Business, and I was home. I was home. That's the short story. How's that?
That's great. I love to hear people's stories. I think especially for people on here that are fairly new and they feel like, "Oh, maybe this isn't the right thing for me." When we hear a story like yours, I mean, you were a linesman. Like from linesman to top luxury agent, did you ever think that would you would make that journey? Probably not back then.
Well, the path has been already laid out. As my grandmother says, just turn the pages in the big book and the next chapter is going to happen. So God's been more than good to me. I can tell you that.
Well, it sounds like it's been a great journey and you've had some really good and some challenging experiences, which I'm guessing that those challenges have also contributed to who you are today and the fact that you are such a servant leader for your people.
Well, listen, I had my hand held by several people in the office because I had no idea what I was doing. We had bought and sold many properties, but I never knew what I was doing. This side of the fence, I had no idea what was involved. And so grateful that I had so many great mentors. I have a great coach. I have two great coaches, actually. I've had people like you to call and say, Sandra, I'm up against this. How do you think I should handle it? And the one thing that the gift is that you make relationships with agents. And as James Shaw would say, it's the people that I didn't know that I needed or wanted in my life. And I'm very grateful for that.
So it sounds like you have had a lot of influence, outside influence, people that you've been able to lean on, they've leaned into you, poured into you, and you've been able to expand from all the people that you are in your life.
I'm very grateful for that. And it's just, people have been absolutely wonderful to me. I don't know what to say. I'm very, very fortunate and very gifted to have people that have supported me. Several people on here, I can tell you right now, that have been incredible influences in my life as well. And you are a major one of them, especially with your kindness, Sandra. When I went over, and I didn't know who you were, but I've learned in this business, just go up and say hello. All you have to do is go say hello. And it starts with a conversation. That's how a conversation starts. Hello. Hi, I'm Jac Smith from Keller Williams Luxury in St. Pete. Who are you? I don't know you and I need to know you.
And I think that is for sure one of your superpowers. You are always giving and not afraid to reach out to people. Sometimes people go to events and they kind of sit in a corner or they wait for people to approach them. I'm a little quieter myself. So I really appreciated you coming up to me. And I think that's a huge superpower. So for anybody who's a little bit shy or, maybe kind of waits for people, I think when you put it in the perspective of you're helping somebody else get out of their shell, it's actually a little bit easier to make that first move of, "Hi, I'm Sandra. Nice to meet you." So, thank you, Jack, for doing that for me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I guess the thing that we learn early in life is always say hello.
So you got into real estate. Let's talk about luxury. I mean, that's really what we're here for is
Mm.
actually mastering luxury and giving people some tips and ideas of how to get into luxury. Some people really feel like it is beyond their reach or that they're not luxury, that they are going to have a challenge getting into luxury. And that's part of what we do here on this podcast is to kind of break those barriers down and say, well, how can you get into luxury? So, Jack, talk to us a little bit about how you made that transition, or did you start in luxury from day one?
No, no, I didn't start in luxury at all. It was something I didn't know that I lived until I had a conversation with a couple of people that, said, where do you live? Yes. Do you live someplace else? Yes. Do you live someplace else? Yes. Really didn't know what that meant. Luxury to me was wealth, homes that were for the wealthy, not just for I call it comfortable. I don't like to use words, um, rich or anything like that. I say everybody's comfortable. I think it's a better word. It's just nicer word for me in my life.
Yeah.
But I was just very blessed that I met some people that had asked me to help them. And then one thing led to another. And then a housekeeper referred to me my first $1 million sale and that type of thing. It was 2 million. It was 2 million, of which we have now sold 3 homes for them since the beginning of that time. Our gift, I think, is that we're multi-level. So we are 9 levels deep in referrals. Does that make sense? So one person
Yeah.
refers 9 people. And then out of those 9 levels if you go east with that, we're 4 levels wide. Now we're actually at 5th now. So that is what we track. We track who our top 100 VIPs are, really the top 25 and 50. And we don't ever say the word sell. We always just say, how can we help you? Who do you know anybody? Anybody can help? That training that we had was buy, sell, or invest in real estate just didn't sit well with me. It just sound like a used car salesman for me. I mean, it worked for a lot of people, but I just say, who do we help? How can we help?
Mhm. Jack, I want to circle back to what you just said about the 9 levels. Can we expand on that a little bit because that is something I have never had anybody on my podcast who talked about 9 levels. So that's of interest to me for sure.
Sure. So it's very, very simple. If you take a chart, a piece of paper, write down who was the first client, who do they refer to next, who do the next people refer you to, who do the next people refer you to, next people refer you to, next people. So that's how it goes on that way. So it would
Uh-huh.
be Sandra and then Jack and then Robin and Mary and Sally and Sue and George and Adam and whoever. And then out of that, those people, who have those people referred to us? So we go with latitude, and then we go with longitude. Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
So we have
So
two people that have referred us four levels wide, and one person that's referred us 5 levels wide. Most everybody's 2 or 3.
that is a really cool thing that you're actually tracking. Now, are you nurturing that on purpose, or are you just tracking it to see where it goes?
No, I probably, without exaggerate, get on the phone the minute on the way to the office, and I'm on calls in the morning. I start 6:30 in the morning, from a 6:30 to 7 calls. Between 7 and 7:30, I get showered and changed. 7:30, I go on another call, and then Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm on another call that's from 7:30 to 8:20, and then from 8:20 to 8:45, I'm on another call. And it's more networking than anything. That's just, it's no longer networking; it's people knowing people.
Yeah.
And when you live in a place like St. Petersburg and Tampa, you live in Fort Lauderdale, you live right by Miami, you live in Pompano, all these areas that we have over here. All we do is have people call other agents that we know and say, who can I go to? Susie Cobb just referred me a woman in her office whose father needs to sell a house. So that's just how it works. It's just servicing people to a very high level, I think, is what we do. Other thing, Sandra, that we do that a lot of people don't know is we walk into every single appointment with an orchid and a box of custom chocolates. Every single appointment.
Wow.
Why? Because we come from gratitude. We're thankful for them. And has it always worked out that we've gotten a listing? No. Sometimes they have a family member, or sometimes we weren't a good fit. I'm very direct, as you know. I'm not soft and kind and all those things that you have that I just don't have. I guess I can be a little bit, but I think the most important part is always to come from contribution. Period. Say hello, come from contribution. How can I help you?
Well, I think that's a great tool that you're using, bringing an orchid and chocolates. So you're coming from a place of gratitude. You're giving them a gift that, regardless of if they sign with you or not, you've now given them something to remember you by. Which, if they don't sign with you and it doesn't sell, I'm guessing you're going to be that next phone call. They're going to come back to you rather than look for yet another agent.
Well, typically, because we're referral, we typically get everything. So let me just say that we're 78% referral.
I love that.
And the other 12% is just stuff that comes out of the woodwork. Passing out cards on the airplane, handing out things to the stewardess. When I go on the plane, I know it sounds crazy, but I buy a lot of Girl Scout cookies. When Girl Scouts cookies came out, Philip just said we had a $125 order came in. I didn't know. He picked them up. And anytime I get on a plane, I take a box of Girl Scout cookies, because who doesn't love Girl Scout cookies? And you give it to the people in the front of the plane, and they seat you and they remember you. So your glass is never empty. I could IV Coke or Dr. Pepper, but they never forget that when you bring them a present, they bring you a present all the time, right?
Jack, that is so easy and so smart. And I'm going to use that because I said I'm a little shy, I'm a little quieter, but
Mm.
who's not going to talk to me if I give them cookies?
Right, absolutely. And put your business card on it. I put my business card on everything. In fact, we have a steward that are probably about 6 months out, but we'll buy in St. Pete as well. Steward, because we call them stewards. Flight attendant. I don't know what the proper
I'm
word
not
is
sure.
anymore. I'm not so politically correct anymore. Just a steward.
So tell us some more. These are great examples. It sounds to me like you're prospecting in two ways. You're prospecting for referral agents.
Mhm.
So you're staying in touch with agents and calling them and giving them gifts like these beautiful flowers that you sent me.
Oh, well,
Thank
you got
you
them
so
finally.
much, Jack. Yes, I just got them like an hour ago. So thank you
Good,
so
good.
much. I mean, you're so generous. And so you're finding all of these really unique ways to touch people and have a conversation. Because what a great opener to hand them a cookies or flowers or whatever it is. So give us some other examples of that.
Good Lord. Open houses. When we do open houses, we don't call them open houses. We do extravaganzas, and we do cookies and treats. And we always have juice boxes for the kids that come in, and we have sodas and bottles of water. Sometimes we do mimosas, but that normally is on a Sunday. But I heard that there's a liability for doing that. So we just do orange juice in a little glass and a splash of champagne, not champagne, and a splash of orange juice, if you know what I mean.
Yes,
That's one thing we
absolutely.
do. We put out 40 to 50 signs when we do an open house.
Wow.
Yes. And yes, Jack does it by himself most of the time, but that's just what I do. And how I built my business, quite frankly, is I did open house on Friday, 2 on Saturday, and 2 on Sunday.
It's a lot of open houses.
And I did them religiously because that's how you meet and greet. I grew up in the military, so I always had to be nice because my father was high ranking and you always had to make a good impression on anybody that came in the room, for lack of a better
Right.
word.
Well, that's a good lesson to learn. So when you do these open houses, when are you putting the signs out? Like, are you doing it the day before, the day
No,
of?
no, no, no. We start an hour and a half ahead of time. We have a lot of towns that won't allow us to have them out.
We have the
And then
same.
I go back and pick them back up. And every major intersection, I have 4 signs. Every major intersection in the development to drive people there, we do them. We put 4 signs and until you get to the house. And when we get to the house, we have 4 or 5 signs out and a feathered flag. I use a feathered flag. I used to give them out to the team, but they disappeared. So I won't. I hold it as my own little secret weapon.
Yep, I had the same thing happen. So, what other advertising do you do for your open houses? Anything else notably successful that gets people in the door?
Well, we door knock. We'll go out 50. Well, each one of us will have 50 flyers. There's 8 of us on the team. So typically we do 200, 250 for an open house. Don't always. Let me just say that don't always, but majority of the time we do. And I have a great director of marketing that does all kinds of stuff online. So I really don't know what he does. I have no idea. He came to us when we were growing rapidly and needed some help because I'm not a Facebook guy. I do stuff, but you can tell what it's normal. The other thing we do at open houses, we do a view of the house as soon as we go in. I don't care whether it's $300,000, 5 million. I do a picture of it for people to understand exactly what we do because other people see you're really working. Everybody thinks that, in my opinion, everybody thinks that a real estate agent, sells a house, gets a check, and never shows up again, right? And
Yep.
there's nothing in
Mhm.
between. Well, you and I know that that's not true. There's more in between than you want to even care to remember, probably, right?
Yep,
But
absolutely.
and I guess that a lot of this stuff is innate. I think as a Boy Scout, you learn how to be nice and do all the good things and be kind to everybody. Um, and be gracious. What is it? The three fingers that we had to put up. I forget what the
Yeah.
edge is, but a lot of that, my early childhood really has spilled over until you're asking these questions. I really never thought about it. It's just, I do what I do. How's that? And if I go to a seminar and somebody talks about something incredible, I know my next $5 million listing, I'm going to ask you to come with me. How's that? Because I know if I have you, it'll happen.
That's smart. That's so smart to bring somebody else. Jack, what I think is interesting, and I think I suffer from this a little bit too. I think we think that some of the things that we do, everybody does. Everybody knows about the things that we do because they're just what we do, right? To us, they don't seem special. They don't seem extraordinary. It's just what we do. And so we forget that other people don't necessarily know all the things to do for luxury.
I agree. And I'm fortunate I have 2 partners, Jake Maisner and Divya Chugani, who both live lovely. Jake grew up luxury and Divya lives luxury. And when we were going to buy a house, moving from a condo to a house, Divya would only allow me to buy in the same country club that she lived in because she didn't want me to live anywhere else. And she wanted me close by if I had to do something. So I think that's another thing when you're involved with luxury and you live luxury, but we're quiet. We're just quiet about it. Philip is the one that walks the dog every day and knows everybody in the neighborhood. But I think the most important part is just treat people the way they deserve to be treated, even if you don't know them, right?
Mhm.
Because you never know. I mean, our cleaning lady's the one that referred us a $4.5 million listing. So,
Yeah.
that's just good sense and treat everybody right. I know that we overpay everything. It doesn't really matter how much money. I'm not going to go to heaven with any money. I can tell you that.
And it always comes back, right? When you put yourself out there, you do nice things for other people, you spend some money, you take time for people, it always comes back to you. It in multiples, no less.
Well, what does they say? Cast your bread upon the water and it comes back tenfold, right? I don't know who said that, but it's someplace from the Bible. I don't know. I grew up, I'm not religious at all. I'm very spiritual. I want to say that. But I grew up with a very religious background. So some of those parables just stick with me in my life. That's all I can say.
Hmm. So, Jack, how do you stay in touch with past clients? That's always one that we struggle with a little bit, especially if they move out of the area. And you strike me as somebody who probably stays in touch with people very well.
We do stay in touch with all 3 of us. Divya, Jake, and I stay in touch with people all the time. Jake does it. Divya does it. I do it. Every time I get in the car, I'm on the phone with calling people. Robin Smith knows that when I call, she picks up she knows how much I call. There's a lot of people on here that I call. I think the other thing is, and let me just say this, I'm going to put a little plug here. I just came back from a convention and several people invited me to parties that didn't know who they were. And one of the parties I walked into was the Chatels in Atlanta. And then they had an incredible party, absolutely wonderful party. And Mary Ellen, another luxury agent, set up all the restaurants for me to go to because she knows I love to eat good food. And she set up all these
Oh,
restaurants. You know, the agents that I hang with, I'm very grateful to have them in my life and treat me better than I treat myself. That makes sense.
absolutely. And it sounds to me you're a lot like me. You found your tribe of people
Mm.
that are your, you can go to for anything. They get you, they understand you, they plan things for you that they know you would love. And I think that real estate can be a very lonely place. I think that even for me, the beginning of my real estate career, it was lonely until I found my tribe. And then real estate became so much more fun and exciting. And, I had people to look forward to seeing and meeting across the country, which I just can't even stress enough how important that was for me. And it sounds to me like that's important for you.
Now, could it be possible that everybody's open minded to do what we do? I don't know. But I think the most important part is you do you and let me do me. And if you have any questions, I'll ask. And everybody, I think in this business, that when you find your tribe, even if they're not in your tribe, people really want to be helpful. I just
Mhm.
think that they do. And one of the things that I loved about St. Pete was that everybody was friendly. Everybody was nice. I kept looking around and saying, what's going on here? Uh-oh, what's going on here? And when you get to that mindset, coming from Manhattan, you have that in the Jersey Shore, people don't look you in the eye. I love all that. Shake your hand. I've learned how to shake a hand and then put my other hand on the other side of the hand. I never used to do that, but because I felt it was too
Invasive.
friendly. Probably, yes. And too friendly. I guess I'll use invasive, right?
Yeah.
But I find that when I started doing it because people did it with me, and I thought, okay, I guess this is a signal that this behavior is okay. And I've nearly never had anybody pull back, but everybody wants to be know, liked, and loved, right? I mean, that's one of our sayings. You want to be know, liked, and loved. And the fortunate part about this is we have people like you in the world that exemplify that to the nth degree.
Thank you, Jack. You're too sweet. But I love that something so small, like, as you're explaining it to me, putting your other hand on the hand that you're shaking, like, I got an emotion that went over me as you're explaining that. Like, that's like an all-encompassing feeling just from something so simple as that.
Well, when you're my age, and I'm probably about 30 years older than you are, in all honesty, you just learn to just be you and do what you feel comfortable with. And if somebody's uncomfortable, I'm not going to know about it. Have I ever had anybody say no? I just think the most important part is that especially with the turmoil that we're going on in the world right now, everybody needs an extra dose of kindness.
Yeah, I agree. So, Jack, I'm gonna ask you a crazy question. If
Oh, I love it.
you went back to New York today, let's say you were just dropped in New York, would you do things differently?
No, number one, it's not a negotiable issue. Even though we still have our condo there, it's not negotiable. It's just not negotiable for me. I will never be cold again. When we had this cold spell here a couple months ago, I had my winter coat on and my thermals on, and everybody laughed at me. But I was that cold. I didn't really know. I skied. We did all the things in the cold weather, but I hated it. Would I do
Right.
something differently? Let's go back to your question. Well, that's a different world. But if you ask me to move to North Florida or to the Panhandle, I pretty much probably would do the same things that I already do now because I've learned that they work. When you
Mhm.
find that it's like when you make your iced tea. Some people want 2 sugars, I want 3 lemons. When it works, it works. Just let it work. I think that's the
Right.
most important thing. Just let it work. And a lot of it is innate. A lot of it is a gift. A lot of it I learn. And I'm constantly learning, like from people like you as well.
And I think that's part of what really keeps you on top of things. You're always learning. You never feel like know everything and that there's nothing left to learn. I think that's also what makes it interesting and exciting every day.
Well, I have to tell you this, that those 2 letters A and I, it's kicking my hind end, let me tell you. I'm like, it's a lot of work, but what I do like about it best, I'll tell you, because I'm such a high D, I started using it when I wanna send a note to somebody, and I write
Yeah.
what I say, and I say, "Please make it warm and friendly and yet professional." And
Yep.
it says exactly what I think, but I don't know how to put it into words. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Absolutely. We do the same thing. It's interesting. One of the agents on my team, he actually has different chats, chat GPTs or whatever you call them for different people so that it formats it in different ways for the different types of people.
So like Gemini and Claude and all that, is that what you mean?
Yeah. Well, no, within the same program.
Within the same platform.
Right. So then
Okay.
he knows like this person's chat knows that this is a high I, write it in a way that they'll understand it. This is a
Hey,
high
I never
E.
thought about putting a disc profile in. That's great. I love, see what you taught me, another thing you taught me. So when I write a letter, say they're a high I, high S, and everybody that, I'm sure everybody knows disc profile, but that's, I like that idea.
Well, great. I'm glad we talked about that.
There
So
you go. There you go.
what else for AI since you brought it up? Are you using it for anything else?
My director of marketing, my director of operations use it all the time. My junior members use it all the time as well. Actually, I have a young man that I'm mentoring again. He's actually going to come out to Las Vegas with me for a conference that we're having next week. And I went in and said, I'm bringing somebody that's young. I said, I'm 20, he's 21. He's just out of college. I'm 73. He's going to become a top agent. What do I need to teach him? And it gave me a whole litany of things I need to do. Some of it I knew, some of it I never thought about.
Right.
So I use it for the extra brain. I just call it my extra brain. You know, I tell my grandchildren, I've got this much RAM used, right? I've got this much left. Don't tax me because that's all I got left.
Yeah, it's great how it does just give you a little boost. And I find when I ask it certain questions, like I probably already knew 5 of the 6 things, and that one extra thing it gives me just a little boost, a little extra something else to dig into, no matter what it is.
Well, I took a class when we were in Atlanta, and there's you know, Sandy Epstein, right?
Yep. Mhm.
Okay. And one of his former women that was on his team is a master of AI. So you might want to cut her first. I forget, I'm drawing a blank on her first name, but her last name is Kuntz. Anybody wants it, I'll certainly send it to you. But she has been incredible with what she's teaching you with AI. Absolutely incredible. We actually hired her to help our director of marketing to see what he could do with some of that stuff. Because
Mhm.
what I'm learning, quite frankly, and I don't know about you, we have just started getting internet leads. We were not getting internet leads. So I don't know what's going on with the internet that we're getting leads all of a sudden. And they're good leads. They're not, they're not FISBOs or expireds. They're good
Right.
leads that we've been able to convert. I think the real key, especially for the newer agents, if you can't convert, you got to learn how to convert. That's the most important thing. Convert
Absolutely.
gracefully, not high D. Let
Right.
the I and the S come out a little bit, you know?
Right. Right. And we all know that first impression's most important, right? So
Mm,
that in my mind, there's 2 first impressions right
mm,
now. There is your online impression, and then
yes.
when they actually call you, that's a second impression. So once they call you, it's really up to you to lose them, right? You've already won them when they've made the call to you. It's up to you if you want to lose them or not. So it's really 2 first impressions, right?
Just what you just said. When they call you, I never thought about that being the call. That's very interesting. Yes, you have to have a good first impression. The first thing I ask them when they say they found me on the internet, where did you find me? Well, I don't know. I was just searching for the top agent in St. Petersburg. Okay, so but there's other agents that are as good. Why did you choose me? Well, we read your bio and we did a little research background. We went into your Google reviews and that type of stuff. So I think the most important thing is just to do what you can do. And I really, really believe this in my heart of hearts, Sandra, that the universe brings you what you need and who you need to be with. And I'm very fortunate that I have to say that if any of the people that I know, like, and love called me at 2 in the morning, said I'm broken down on the Florida Turnpike or the 275 or whatever A30 up in Pensacola, I'd go get them and take care of them.
And I believe that you would, Jack. I
Mhm.
really do. So, one thing I've never asked anybody on this podcast is how do you create boundaries? Do you create boundaries between your work life and your personal life? Most people on here have probably had that 9 o'clock at night phone call that can we really do anything about whatever they're calling us about? Probably not. Do you have any ways that you've created some boundaries and boundaries sounds harsh and I don't mean it to sound.
No, it's not harsh at all. It's clearly what it is. It's just a very good description.
So tell us a little bit about how do you keep the balance and keep your sanity? Because I know you're selling at a high level. So how do you do that? Give some ideas for everybody here as to what have you done that's been successful in that manner?
Well, I'm up at 4 in the morning, 3 or 4 in the morning, because it's my clock, whether I go to bed at 10 and well, sometimes I go to bed at 7:30, sometimes I go to bed at 8:30. Last night I had was with a buddy that I had known over here when I went, we were in, and he still is in AA. We're both still in AA, but we go to AA meetings together. So I touched base when I came over. I think the most important thing is just setting it in the very, very beginning with clients. Now with friends, everybody knows I'm in bed by 7 or 7:30. They just
Mm,
know that. It's a
right.
given. In fact, when I'm out late, they'll say, Jack, isn't it past your bedtime? I'm like, it's okay. I'm not 3 years old. I'm 73 years old. It's good. I know how to go to bed. Boundaries. If people are boundary less, I back off. But when we go on an appointment, I tell them that we're available from 7 to 7 every single day.
Okay.
I have now started to take weekends off because it's important to me that I do that. I think the most important part of that is that Divya wasn't spending enough time with her husband. I wasn't spending enough time with Philip, and Jake wasn't spending enough time with his girlfriend. So we really try to make it 7 to 7. I want to cut it back to 7 to 6, but I don't know that I can because, some people have, and there's nothing urgent that has to be after 5 o'clock. There's nothing urgent, right? It's
There's
just
not
their
much
own
you can do
anxiety.
after. There's
Right.
not much you can do because title companies are closed, mortgage is closed. So really, it is kind of a tomorrow problem. So
Well, we're also psychologists as well, right? So we have to help people off the cliff and everything's
yeah.
going to be okay. I think the most important thing is just tell people that these are my hours. And when I first came into business, I want to be honest, when I would call an agent and have a referral and they say I'm available from, 8 in the morning or 9 in the morning till 7 at night, and I'll call you back the next day. I thought that's just rude. That's just rude. Well, I've learned it's not rude. I want time with the people that I love and time that I want to spend time with. And I think that, and since I have done that, Sandra, honest to God, very rarely do I get a call. Well, number one, I don't know what's coming in after 7:30 because I leave the phone in the kitchen. I don't bring it to bed with me.
Oh, see, now that's a good tip right there. Most of us are sleeping with it in the bed
No,
or on the
no,
table next to the
no,
bed. So you
no,
leave
no,
it in
no,
the
no.
kitchen.
Well, when I first was in the business and Philip was commuting back and forth to New York, he would say, "We are," when I was working, because it's what we do, right? I've been working since I'm 12. That's all I know how to do. He said, "Well, are you on with your boyfriend Keller or are you on with your boyfriend Williams?" I said, "No, I'm just working. That's all I'm doing." So you have to make light of it after a while. Well, how do you handle it with your husband? What do you do? Let me reverse this.
My husband is he puts up with a lot. Let's just say that. He is very understanding. He traveled a lot. When we first got married, he was the one out traveling all the time. So I think now it's like he gives me a lot of grace for that. I tend to get up very early and try to do a lot of work before, you know, the events start. Cause as you know, on vacation, we're always working still, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
hard to turn it off. And I should do better at that. But I will get up early, even on vacation, and try to get as much done as I can so that I'm not interrupting the activities of the day. Just really try to compartmentalize it that way. But I will say I am very fortunate because he's very understanding. Not everybody is because real estate careers can be tough for the significant other. Anybody else got a tough question for him today?
Interesting.
Why did you choose an orchid for your gift?
Why did you choose it? Well, we live in Florida, right? And Publix has them for 19.99 or 9.99 every once in a while. You can buy two for 20. When we can buy two for 20, I never knew what is it called? BOGO? Is it BOGO?
BOGO, yep. Buy one,
I
get
didn't know
one.
what a BOGO was until I moved to Florida. We didn't have that in New Jersey. They didn't talk about that. I don't know. It's just because it's pretty. It's always pretty. And I tell everybody, you can't kill it. If you don't like it, if it's done blooming, put it outside. It'll come back. I promise you it'll come back to life. Just give it time. Every 6 months, they come back to life. That's why I chose it. And chocolates, because I think that it's just a signature thing to do. What do you do on Valentine's Day? What do you do when you go to somebody's house? Right.
Mhm.
So when they're custom made for you and they come in a great packaging, I'm all about packaging. Yeah. Yeah. That's it. That's all I can tell you.
Okay. And how about for closing gifts? I bet you do
Mm.
some spectacular closing gifts.
That is a wonderful, wonderful thought. So what I did start doing is we have a store called Marion's that's in St. Pete, and it's super waspy, for lack of better words. That's the only word I can use because I walked in, I felt very comfortable, pink and green, the whole country club thing. And they had these blankets that had the map of Tampa and St. Pete on them.
Very cool.
I think we bought 100 of them. They were expensive, they're a little pricey, but I give them as housewarming gifts. I also do sometimes a bottle of champagne. We have people that Jake is really good about going into people's wine rooms and people's homes, see what they drink. So you buy something that they want to have. One time he called me and said, Jack, this bottle of Camus is $397. well, how much money did he make? How much money are we going to make on this? And he said, blah, 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 blah. And I said, okay, that's 0.0007. Fine. We're fine. We're good. We can do this. So it's just, I think you customize and pay attention. We take presents when people have dogs. We take things back when they have kids. We'll bring coloring books. I don't know. We just do what we do. You're asking me really hard questions here.
No, Jack, it's like this comes so natural to you, but remember, it doesn't come natural to everybody. And I'll tell you what, I love to give a great gift, but I have a really hard time slowing down to do it. And
Mm.
then when I do slow down to do it, I overthink it. And I struggle with, oh, but what if they don't like it? What if I get the bottle of wine that's not expensive enough? Like for sure overthink it. So how do you push past that?
Well, one of the questions we ask in our intake is, what is your favorite restaurant in town? Especially if they're leaving, not that for sellers. If they're leaving, what is your favorite restaurant in town? And
Okay.
that's an easy thought. Depending upon the price point, 100, 200, 250, whatever it is. I know you can only write off $35. I don't care about the $35. I care about the client giving me a referral because we gave them a restaurant much more than they expected to get. I always feel you err on the side of generosity as opposed to the side of not being generous.
That makes sense. So more is better than less.
Some areas, yes.
Uh,
Not all areas.
Good point, Jack. Good
Not
point.
all areas.
So going back to the beginning, I'm going to ask another hard question.
Sure.
So back to the beginning, your first luxury listing, do you remember what it was? Where
I
it was?
do. I do.
Why do you think they took a chance on you for that first luxury listing versus going with somebody who maybe had a bigger luxury name?
Well, I have to be honest. My first sale was like first two or three sales were luxury. Because I was new in the business. I was only 2 years in the business. But my business partner, Divya, comes from a very comfortable community. And she saw that Divya was in real estate and she called her and said, listen, I'd like to have you help me sell my home, but 5 other realtors couldn't sell it. What can you do different? So we went in with a very positive attitude. We went in and marketed the hell out of it and we sold it in 60 days. Got it under contract. Had been on the market for 5 years, full price. And she would not
Wow.
budge on the commission. Full price. And she went, what happened? It was a classmate. A fraternity mate of Jake's, that bought the house and tore it down. It was $5.5 million. Tore it down.
What?
He had his cybersecurity company. So
Okay.
that's the very, very first big one that we had. We've had others that are good. But when you have partners like you have, I mean, we really work all the time and work in conjunction. We were told this would not work. So when people say they're going to have partners and other people have a hard time with the partners, I don't know. I think it's a matter of you make the right choice. And it's like choosing people that you work with. I don't call anybody help or an employee. They're all my
Mhm.
partners. I just believe in using that word because we're equally all doing the same stuff all the time.
Yeah, that's great. So going back to that first house that you sold that had been on the market for so long, what do you think you did differently that actually got it sold versus the other agents that had had it?
I don't know if you're going to like this answer because it might be a little bit racy, but I didn't know a lot. I knew a lot of the women that were top agents that were not what we would call nice. Let me just say that. They had
Okay. Yep.
reputations. Now, I didn't know them from Adam. I just heard if you were going to show a blah, blah, blah's house, watch out because she's a little bit difficult. Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
I called all the top men agents and the top gay agents and said, I've got this house that nobody can sell. So and so couldn't sell it, so and so, but I bet you've got somebody lined up. And we actually had a gay agent show up and he said, I never knew about this house. I knew it was on the market. I thought something wrong. I said, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that they didn't have the right people and they didn't do the right things.
Mhm.
That's the truth. That's how simple it was. It was not. And you also put it in the universe. I know that people have a hard time with that comment. You put it in the universe, put it out there in the universe, and the universe takes care of you. Divya knew a lot of people. I didn't know anybody because I was only here for 2 years. So I thought, well, what can I do that's a little bit different? I just do things that are different. I don't know where these brainstorms come from. Driving down the road, I don't know, in the shower, walking with the dog. I don't know. I just do what my brain tells me to do. Sometimes it's a little bit off kilter. You're like, well, now why did you do that, Jack? Well, I thought it was a good idea. Well, it worked out, but let's not do that again.
Well, sometimes we have to have those, right? We failed forward, right? And
Uh,
okay, we learned what not to do. Sometimes
right.
that's as powerful as learning what to do.
You're absolutely
So
right. But again,
Well, I like that you actually reached out to agents and you kind of gave them a little bit of a challenge, right? Like nobody else could do it, but I bet you could do it. So then they wanted to bring you a buyer. They wanted to have help you get it done.
And they were actually KW agents, and they've since gone on to other brokerages that people do, which I totally understand. And we're still in contact with them. It's just, the wealth in itself is a very private world, right? As you know. So comfortable in its world is also very comfortable. And in my lifestyle, there's a lot of people that I know that are comfortable. So
Mhm.
call the people that are successful, hang around with the people that are successful, because you never know what you're going to learn, right? The most important thing for me is I'm constantly learning.
Absolutely, you are. And I think some people are a little bit afraid of bothering that person who's very experienced. I think that people need to understand that we love to help, right? We're flattered when somebody calls and asks us a question or for advice. Like I know you are. We're always happy to help. And I hope that any of the newer agents on here feel comfortable to do that. Pick up the phone. We're always, all of us, whether you know, most of us, I should say, are very eager to help, and you'll find the right people. You'll find the people that are your people that you can lean into.
Well, I think that's the fortunate part for all of us that when you have, and I'll always go in and say, who do I need to know? Like when you go to a convention or you go into a workshop, who in this room should I know? Especially if you're from out of state or and out of the area, right? Who do I need to know in here? Who would you recommend that I know? I
Mhm.
know you know people, but who would you like me to talk to?
Right, right. And sometimes that simple question leads you to people that you never would have thought, and a long-term relationship that lasts for years.
Well, and also when I go to some of these things, I'm a big writer of handwritten notes, and I write all the time, and I pick up the phone and call, and just out of the blue, you're on my mind. And I think that's the most important thing. Probably a real key to what I do is when I'm in the car, I'm driving and doing things and going here, going there. But I'm thinking the most important part of that is you just pick up the phone and call people out of the blue, right? Say, hey, you're on my mind. How are you? How are you doing?
Yep, and I think that's where a lot of people have kinda stopped that, right? I think a lot of
Mhm.
people in real estate have decided that the phone is a scary place. It's the going back to basics.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I totally agree.
Yeah.
What do you think is your key to your success? Because you had much more enormous success than we have. We're just trying to break six figures. How have you built your business that you're doing the volume doing every year? We can't get past about 135 is the most we've ever done. And we're having a hard time getting past that.
Mhm.
What do you think your success is with that?
I think a lot of it is
Not that it's bad, but
I think it's always being learning based,
okay.
constantly looking for who else can I learn from? Who else should I know? Never being complacent, not just sitting back and saying, well, we've done this. We'll just stay and do the same thing over and over. Yeah, whatever we found that works, great. We're going to keep doing that. But what else can we add to it? Where else can we learn? Jack, you see me, I go to a lot of conventions, a lot of events, and sometimes it's you walk away with just one tiny little thing after 3 or 4 days, but if that one thing can really help you or help one of the agents on your team excel, then it was totally worth it. It's I think always looking for the small things that can make a big difference.
I agree with you 100%. My father said, go to work. You can do whatever you want, just go to work. So I went to work at 12. And people say, why are you doing this for so long? Having the other three careers, this one an honest to God's truth. This is my absolute favorite thing I've ever done my whole entire life. I don't know where I would be in the world if I'd done something this early in life. I don't know that I had the confidence. I think that when you have an opportunity, since I moved to St. Pete and didn't know a soul, it was much like I did when I got sober. You have to control alt delete the people in your lives because nobody believes you're drunk. I was a bad drunk, bad drunk. So when I came to St. Pete, I didn't know anybody. So I just applied the AA principles to what I need to do. So I joined every group. You're going to laugh. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. I joined every single group that I could do. I joined a square dancing group. I never square danced in my life. I joined a line dancing group. I never line danced in my life. I went to a church that I had never gone to in my entire life. I walked with Romeos. Do you know what Romeos are?
No.
It's a national thing. Really old men eating out.
Okay.
So those are the things that I did because I didn't know what to do, right? That I didn't know a soul. If you asked me to go to the grocery store, I went to the grocery store. If you want to go to the dog park, I went to the dog park. If you wanted to go to a movie, even though I didn't want to go to the movie, I went to the movie because I didn't know who they knew. So I just learned to do that, I guess, is the best way I can say that.
So you were open to anything and everything.
Typically, just about everything. Yes, absolutely. Yes, yes. I mean, as long as I know that it's part of a growth pattern and a growth way to play, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. So I got a question. Is there such a thing as overselling yourself? And is this something to be careful of?
Wow. Is there such a thing as overselling yourself? Let me just say this. You're natural all the time of what you do. Whenever you meet you, we know who we're going to get. I would say be that person all the time. That's probably the best thing I can say. Be that person all the time. And always try to, I just call St. Pete and Florida nice. Everybody's nice. Everybody wants to live here. Of course they're nice. They want to live here, right? That's all I can say. I think just be nice and be yourself. I could never be as elegant as you are. It's just not in my cards, right? Well, but it's the truth. You know that. I mean, you're a very elegant, refined, classy woman. I'm sometimes can get down in the dirt, and say things maybe I shouldn't say, but don't imagine anything ever comes out of your mouth that you shouldn't say. How's that?
Well, I don't know, Jack. I don't know. But I
Okay.
appreciate you saying that and feeling like that.
Well, it's the image that you give all the rest of us.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you, Jack. I appreciate you more than you know. And I'm so thankful that you joined us today and shared everything with all these wonderful people. Everybody, if you need anything at all, feel free to reach out to me. I think Jack says the same, right? He'd
Yes,
be happy to
absolutely.
hear from you and help you in any way possible.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you again. I appreciate it, everybody. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you all being here. I don't know why you're here, but I appreciate it.
I
Hugs
love it.
and lots of love. Big hugs and lots of love.
Thank you for joining us for Mastering Luxury with Sandra. Make sure to subscribe and follow us so that you never miss a moment of the inside look at luxury real estate.